look, there's a lot of heartbreak associated with this departure. We did not get everybody out that we wanted to get out. But I think if we'd stayed another 10 days, Louis, we wouldn't have gotten everybody out that we wanted to get out. And there still would have been people who would have been disappointed with that.
Joining me now, U.S. Army Purple Heart recipient, Republican Nevada senatorial candidate, Captain Sam Brown. Captain, so good to see you this morning. Just your reaction to what you saw and heard yesterday.
No, I think the heartbreak is here in America as we realize that this is what new American leadership looks like. Politicians and bureaucrats leading efforts like the withdrawal of American citizens and our most trusted allies out of Afghanistan lead to a clear and obvious disaster. And what this signal sends across the world about this new American leadership that will strand Americans knowingly out literally 24 hours before a deadline that was imposed on us by the Taliban is appalling, not just on the international stage, on a stage in which the whole world is watching us and the way that we lead, but it should be appalling to Americans and what we mean and how our politicians and bureaucrats, this political class, value us.
What have you been in contact with fellow veterans, just what their feeling is about what has happened? I know that yesterday, hearing General McKenzie, head of CENTCOM, talking about the Taliban using words like pragmatic, helpful, and businesslike was especially appalling, given that that was the enemy, the terrorist enemy that you were fighting for 20 years.
Right. It's heart-wrenching. Many veterans I talk to have tried to tune out this news. These updates are a serious gut punch to the sacrifice that many of us made, including leaving fellow brothers and sisters fallen on the field and seeing them sent home in the same coffin draped with the American flag that we saw just this past week. This is terrifying and something that I think we will see a negative effect in recruitment of those who love their country enough to put their life on the line, to raise their right hand, to wear the uniform, to do and go and be where the military and our political leaders ask us to be. Those people are going to be thinking long and hard now about whether or not this country values the same things that they value. The American values are changing. And if our political leaders, if the bureaucrats, if people like these Secretary of State officials who are asking for accolades don't get in alignment with American values, we're going to see a real problem in our ability to staff our military with people who care about it.
Captain Brown, dozens of retired military officers, to your point, are calling on Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley to resign following the botched Afghanistan withdrawal. The group saying that Austin and Milley should have recommended against the hasty withdrawal, and even if they fought against the pullout order, they should still resign as, quote, a matter of conscience and public statement. Your thoughts on that?
I would agree with that. And I think based off some of the statements that they've made in the last week or so, we know that the intelligence assessments were there that stated that this would be a disaster. And even if those assessments weren't there because some, intelligence analyst failed, people who've been on the ground knew that this was inevitable. There's not been a lack of human intelligence to know that this was going to happen. And so for them to hold this line publicly that this was some sort of surprise until we're seeing the reality of the Taliban now flying Black Hawk helicopters over Kabul, hanging their enemy. It's a lie. It's a shame. They should resign. They have allowed themselves to become a political apparatus of an administration that is incompetent. And I think the American people need to not only be asking Joe Biden, what he was thinking, why he made these decisions, there's a very real chance that Kamala Harris could be leading this country one day. And I think Americans deserve to hear from her. What is Kamala Harris's stance right now? What does Kamala Harris think about what's happening in Afghanistan? What does Kamala Harris think about this new American leadership? We deserve answers.
To your point, this all does fall on President Biden, though, that he was the one who insisted on a rapid withdrawal seriously, for public relations purposes, because he wanted to make a big show on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. He insisted on the rapid departure, ignored recommendations from his advisors to leave a residual force there. He insisted, based on the troop levels, to shut down Bagram, to abandon Bagram. We pulled the rug out from under the Afghan army by pulling the contractors that needed to keep the Afghan Air Force flying, mistake after mistake. So the president, not yesterday, but this afternoon, will stand up in front of the American people and speak. What can he say? What should he say? Sam?
President Biden ought to take this opportunity to do the one thing I think would begin to heal this situation, and that is to recount the mistakes that he made, the lack in judgment, the dismissal of proper and good analysis. He should take ownership of that and let the American people know that the job of being the President of the United States, a commander-in-chief of our military forces, is beyond his ability to do competently, and he ought to resign today.
Captain Sam Brown, how are you doing on a personal level?
On a personal level, I'm torn up. This is actually, I'm less than a week away from 13 years since I was blown up in Kandahar, Afghanistan. 10 years ago, this next month, I was retired from the military, something that I had grown up wanting to do since I was in middle school. I thought I was going to be a career military man, and that was cut short. I was retired after 5 years because of my wounds. And so this is something that, on a personal level, I was totally invested in serving my country in the military. I had dreams of my children one day growing up and being in the military. And I have no pleasure in saying this, but if our military and our political leadership cannot get things straight, cannot represent the American people and our values, and take care of Americans when they're behind enemy lines, I cannot in good conscience encourage my children to do something that my father encouraged me to do. And that is a sad indictment on where we're at.
Sam, you represent the best of America. And thank you for your sacrifice, your leadership, your words, everything. Thank you, Sam. Captain Sam Brown. You take care. And please come back.
Thank you, Dagan.